Daredevil TV show has been among us for quite a while, so today I'm gonna do a redesign of it in the way I think should be the best option for the show. Daredevil Born Again is in the second season and it's basically the fifth season of the show, and we had many different suits for the character, and to be honest, most of them suck, so I decided to make my own. Hi, I'm Lucas and welcome to Artist Dilemmas. So the superhero productions nowadays have a very big problem that usually the suits are awful because they have a lot of detail or they look like an armor or stuff like this. And usually they struggle to look like the comics. The Daredevil show had this problem too in my opinion, because besides the first suit, that black one, all the others were pretty weird, especially the first ones. And also because they refused to add the DD logo until this season. I truly don't know why. So today, my goal here is to create a suit that I think should be the best option or a good option for the show, while still keeping the visual identity of the show, not trying to simply come up with something that doesn't work with the season of Born Again. So first, let's get started with what I like and what I don't like. What I like about the suit is, first of all, his helmet. I think it's pretty cool how they adapted the helmet for the show, still keeping the vibe of the comics of the character, but also bringing up something new. Now the bad point is basically all the rest of the suit. I don't like the suit looking like an armor. Like, for me, Daredevil is kind of like Spider-Man. He doesn't need like a Kevlar suit to protect him from bullets or stuff like this. No, not at all, because he can dodge it, you know, just like Spider-Man. But I think he can have a bit of armor here and there, like some knee protection or shoulder protection, stuff like this. But I wouldn't add more than this, you know? So my goal here is to come up with a simpler suit while still making it in a way that makes sense. My main inspirations for this were the suits from this Darkest run, which are my favorite and the ones I think make more sense for the show, for a live action. So this is what I'm gonna use as reference. The main idea I wanted to keep from the very beginning was making the suit having a thinner shirt and some thicker pants, because I think that works pretty well in the comics and that could work really good here too. So I'm gonna use this as a base for the design. Having this in mind, I started with some sketches. Another stuff I wanted to do here was add more beard to Matt, because I think Charlie Cox has a nice beard and that could work for the character too. And I thought maybe having something in the plot would make sense and explain why he has a bigger beard. As in the show, he's hiding from everyone, so it would make sense of him not having something to shave and then having a bigger beard. So I'm gonna be using this idea here. At first, I thought of having him just like in the Marco Cacchetto drawing with a bigger hair, like coming out of the cowl, but it didn't work quite well in my opinion, so I decided not to keep up with this and just go with the bigger beard. So at first I made the helmet just not covering his cheeks, so the beard will take all this space, but it wasn't working that much as well, so I decided to keep the cheek protection because that will look a bit better and more like in the comics, which is something positive in my opinion. Now moving to the suit itself, I decided to have a kind of a military approach, especially for his pants and the boots, specifically for the boots. I want him to have a military boot because that will look nice for the character, and he already uses something like this, so that will keep the same vibe of the suit he's already using in the show. And then I came up with some different variations of the pants. I kept the idea of having thicker pants, more, bigger pants with a lot of folds, because they wouldn't compromise his movements since he needs it. And also adding something in the belt for him to put his weapons, so he doesn't need to carry around every time. And that was the basic idea of what I wanted to do. For the gloves, I had two ideas, but I decided to go to the first one. The second one I had was to do something kind of related to a box glove because of his father. I thought that would be a nice idea. I saw Rafael Grandpa doing that back in the day, but it didn't quite work. I thought it wasn't working with this design, so I decided not to follow with this, and I decided to keep going with some bandages around the forearm. Now, moving to the logo, as I mentioned, something I thought was quite weird was not to have the logo in the suit. Because in my opinion, it's just the same as having Batman without a bat in his chest. That doesn't make sense in my opinion. It's something that's very important to the character. So here we are gonna have the logo, of course. I did a variation of a single D in the chest, being kind of bigger, just like Node's suit from the comics. But I didn't quite like it. Like, I liked it, but not 100%. I wasn't sure about it. So I decided to stay with the classic DD in his chest. Something I wanted to add to the character as well was some hints of black or darker tones to the suit. I don't quite like the suit being fully red. So bringing some more details to the costume would make sense for the show. Because I said it's a problem. Like all the superhero productions nowadays, making the suits with tons of details, but I think a little bit of detail is very welcome in here, so that's why I decided to add it. Okay, now we have all the three versions of the design. They are quite similar, but with slight differences, especially at the details. So what I did was posting it on my socials and asking people which one was their favorite and what they like about it, and if they would change something. And what happened was the second and the third one were the one people enjoyed the most. So what I did was mix it. I used most of the design of the third one and add some details from the second one. For example, I had only one compartment for his web leg, and also add a collar because I think that would work for the character. Just like, if I'm not wrong, Ben Affleck used to have it on his suit back in the day. Maybe that could work as a homage, maybe? Not sure. So having the designs done, before that, I tried to come up with an idea, with a first idea, but I thought it wasn't quite there. I made it with markers, and it was basically the idea I had here, but more rough. I tried to come up with a bigger pants and a thinner shirt, as I mentioned, and the cowl being more simpler, kind of like if it was made out of fabric maybe. But as I said, it wasn't quite there. It was kind of rough, but it's a good drawing. It's a good drawing of Daredevil, I guess. I tried to come up with a beard here, and that was when I thought, okay, I really want to keep the beard, but maybe not this way. That's what I did in a final version. So moving to the final drawing, because I wanted to have him in a pose, like not just a simple T pose of Daredevil, standing showing a suit. I think that wouldn't make sense. So I decided to come up with a full drawing with an illustration. I made a sketch on my iPad and printed the sketch very light in a paper, so I could do the inks traditionally because I really wanted to do the inking traditionally, as I mentioned. I said traditionally many times, I don't know why. So that's what I did. My idea for the drawing was having Daredevil, kind of like if he had just fought some AVTF, I think that's their name, those police guys, then defeated them all, and then he just going for someone else. I don't know, maybe Kingpin or someone. I don't know. So we have Matt here walking straight with a slightly up camera, and then have the police guys lying on the ground after being beaten by Matt Murdock. And then that was the idea I had. I wanted to keep a triangular composition because I think that's probably my favorite composition. At first, I was gonna just do them in a white background with nothing in there, but I thought maybe adding a floor and making the background lighter or darker to maybe looking like it's a big corridor would work. So that's what I did here. I had a bit of a ground where the characters were. I would keep working with this at a comic. At first, I started with the idea of making everything red, to keep it red as the main color, but later I decided to leave the background white, like full white, just like how David Aja usually does in some of his illustrations. I thought that maybe it could be nice, and it ended up being quite good, actually, quite better than I was expecting. So I decided to go with that. Now here, I decided to make Daredevil colors just as it is, with the costume being red, and then adding some darker tones to some areas, just like the gloves and the boots, and keeping everything else red. Moving to the police guards, I decided to simply make them dark blue because they're not the main point of drawing, they're not a focus point. So the idea here is to keep the focus on Daredevil, which is the main character here, the main subject of the drawing. And then I decided to add a Bullseye logo behind him. Since Bullseye is in the show, I think that would make sense. Also, the white background could be maybe a reference to Kingpin's, since in the show at least he mostly uses white. And there's also a poster where half of the poster is white because of the Kingpin, so maybe that will work as something like this. This is how our suit from MCU's Daredevil would look like. I think that would be the best approach, or something like this. Let me know in the comments as well, what do you think? If you would do something different, how would you personally approach it? If you will change anything, if you would get inspired by something else, for example, another run maybe. Because at the end of the day, it's all about preference, right? Let's chat in the comments. Let's talk about what do you guys think about the other suits. If you like one of the other suits, because I personally like the one from the first season of Daredevil Born Again, the one from the second season from the Netflix show, but I've seen some edits on the internet too. Maybe an in-between these two would be a nice option too, I don't know. So this is basically my idea for my version of the Daredevil suit. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.